Hi everyone, this is Kristen from Jalopnik, and we've got something pretty special for you guys today. It's a 1991 Toyota MR2. And with me today is Jordan, the owner. And Jordan, how many miles did you say were on this car?
This MR2 Turbo has 13,000 original miles.
Well, we are going to explore this and show you 5 things about it that you might not already know. So we have functional side vents. So tell me a little bit about these side vents. They're not just for show, they're not a costume.
Yeah, so as opposed to a lot of cars from the early 90s, they're not just for show. So on the driver's side, this leads to your air intake. And on the passenger side, it leads to the air-to-air intercooler for the turbo.
So you mentioned that the MR2 is highly spacious, right? Very usable?
Yeah, so it's pretty efficient use of the space despite the engine being in the middle. So if you open up the trunk here, you can actually see that there's plenty of space to put all my bags in it and drive around, and it wasn't a problem at all.
And you mentioned there was a frunk. Can we look at the frunk?
You can see the frunk. Up here we have the spare tire as well as a Toyota factory toolkit. Your battery is actually up here as well, behind the spare tire, all the way down and back, again for optimal weight distribution.
You can fit a whole other engine in here, no problem. I can't believe this even has a spare tire. There are no cars with spare tires these days. I think it's only like a third of them come with spare tires.
Welcome back to the 90s. I'm 6'2", and it's more than enough room. You know, I have a hard time fitting inside like an early Miata or something like that, but there's actually a surprising amount of cabin room for the 2 occupants.
You can really kick back and relax.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't need that much leg room. My feet are not even touching the end of the floor right now.
So you don't have to use up all that precious trunk space with the T-tops. They actually store neatly right behind the seats, and I can show you how they come off here. If you would just hold my T-top bag for me.
T-top bag.
So there's a little switch right under here. You flip it over, and then there's a lever that pops down. And then you just lift up here, and it slides right out. So these are the this is the switch and the lever.
I would like to know how to spot the differences between an MR2 Turbo and a regular MR2, since only 30% of them, you said, came as turbos?
Yeah, roughly about 30% of these were turbos in the day. If you spot one out in the wild, chances are you're probably looking at a naturally aspirated car.
Okay.
The external differences without popping the engine lid are actually pretty few. So number one is these raised louvers over the engine lid. This was actually kind of just one flat piece on the naturally aspirated cars. And other than that, you get a turbo badge.
There's one point I want to make about this turbo badge. It's that it's painted, which I find unique because badges now are shiny and they draw a lot of attention to themselves, but this is very subtle.
And you get slightly different exhaust. The exhaust tips were much smaller on the naturally aspirated cars.
Let's take a look at the engine and go over what's special about it.
Right. If you open it up, this is the motor you're talking about when you're talking about a Turbo MR2. This is a 2nd generation 3S GTE motor. There was about 5 generations of this motor in total, but for the Turbo MR2, the only motor we ever got was the 2nd generation variant. It's a twin entry turbo. Turbo is located back here. Your air-to-air intercooler is off on the passenger side over this way. Airbox on the other side, and the transmission is different on this versus the naturally aspirated car as well. The car has beefier axles and a more heavy-duty E153 transmission, which can handle way more power than this motor actually makes stock. There are a few areas that can certainly cause some headaches. One of the trouble spots for this 2nd generation 3S GTE motor found stock in the Turbo SW20 MR2 is there's 2 coolant hoses. The affectionately called by the MR2 community the hose from hell and the hose from hell on earth, which basically are sandwiched on all sides by various components and making replacement extremely difficult and almost a motor drop kind of proposition.
So 100,000 miles. You're very far away from that.
Yeah, I
So
got a few miles to go.
You don't have to worry about that.
You know,
I guess you can't even see them from here.
Nah, not really.
No.
So I thought one last quick fun fact on this car is, did you know that the largest MR2 gathering in North America happens every year right here in Bear Mountain?
No. What?
And I'm going to take you out on those roads right now.
Oh, okay.
We do a scenic drive through these mountain passes every fall / late summer. And at the end, there's a show and shine. Usually the last 2 years, we've had over 150 MR2s show up, which is actually a very impressive number when you consider how many of these are left in the area. And it's a charity event. Last year's was the 20th annual, and we raise money for the American Cancer Society.
How would you ever want to get out of this? This does not feel like a 26-year-old car. There's like no weight in the nose.
This is what this car is all about. There's no objective way to measure the experience of, you know, driving a affordable mid-engine car, T-tops off, wind in your hair, tight, twisty road, no weight in the nose.
As happy as this car makes me, it also makes me a little sad because nobody makes a car like this anymore.
Right.
The steering is nice and weighted, the gates are nice and defined, crisp. Clutch is very, very forgiving. The suspension actually tells you what's under the car instead of just being unnecessarily hard.
Yeah.
You know, and you always know where the front of it is pointed.